Hello everyone, how are we doing? Yes, we are back outdoors. Look how nice it is. That rain has passed us, fingers crossed. So, usual deal, just because we're outside, things don't change. It's like at the beginning of lockdown when we were doing all of this outside. Usual deal then. So, if you can do me a couple of favors, hit like, love, haha, wow. Write in the comments, where are you watching? Can you hear me nice and clearly? So what room in your house, or are you out and about now that you've got some freedom? Make sure you've got a fantastic coffee. If Claire Mitchell is on, this is the coffee you gifted us. Write it in the comments. People go check out this independent because this coffee is lovely. Then click share and write a post saying why someone should be watching this Q&A on health, fitness, nutrition, running, everything I can do to possibly help you. Or tag someone in the comments if you think they'll be benefiting from watching. Got 4 of you on right now. I'm going to give you all a couple of minutes to do those things. I haven't seen any likes, loves, haha, and wow. Press those buttons, guys. Good. We're going to be covering, I've got 3 questions in here. Watching in the sidelines with a nice coffee. Absolutely. It is fine, fine coffee. You can see as well, guys, over here in the comments section, I have pinned our episode, our first episode of Friday Night Track Club TV from season 2. Filmed it with Phil Taylor, a few weeks ago. Phil is my decathlon training partner. It's an hour long. It's a really, really good watch in my opinion. We completely rewrote actually what we were going to discuss, and we're going to film a different episode for the things we actually planned on watching. So please go and check that out. For some reason, YouTube has added 3 minutes to the end of the clip, so I'm going to have to go back in and edit that at some point. But the first 55 minutes, 43 seconds are absolute brilliant, so do go and watch that. I've got 3 major questions that I'm going to be covering today. We've got branch chain amino acids, we've got couch to 5K, and also hip positioning during running. I'm going to be answering those questions, but if you have a question live, just pop it in the comments. But I want to see some like, love, haha, wows before we get going with our first question, which is going to be hip position. And remember, I can't see you, I can't say hello to you and be a polite member of society unless you say hi to me first. That's the deal here on Performance Physique. So we have, hopefully this question is popping up on your screens very shortly, guys. I'm going to read it to you just in case it doesn't. Also, if you get a box which says notify me when Performance Physique go live, click yes. You want to be notified. So our first question, hopefully it'll pop up on your screen very shortly, but our first question is, what are my hips meant to do during a run? And I actually asked for a little bit of more clarification on this question, but it's basically, where are your hips meant to sit whilst you're running? And this is actually a really, really important thing. I talk all the time about making sure that your foot hits the ground as you run directly underneath your hips, but I haven't actually spoken very much about where your hips are meant to be as you run. As you get tireder and tireder whilst you run, you'll notice your posture changes slightly. So for those of you who are watching and are part of Friday Night Track Club, you'll know we do a posture session every few weeks. Maybe it's the intention to do it every few weeks. Maybe it's once in 12 weeks, something like that, but we will do more of them. But basically, as you get tireder and tireder, as you fatigue during a run, that might be at 1 kilometre for you, it might be at 12 kilometres. It depends on your ability and the state that you are at the time of running. You will notice that your hips, so if this is your hip here, your hips start to sit further backwards and your torso takes this forwards lean. Now this is a strategy if you start getting tired, to encourage your chest to lean forwards, and that will carry your weight, your momentum forwards. But in terms of actual perfect positioning, we really, really, really want to encourage our body to be nice and tall and to have our hips forwards, not having them sit backwards, because when they sit backwards, that makes it very, very difficult for the rest of our technique to take place in a correct and efficient manner. So driving your knee upwards is actually, in the long term, more efficient and economic as you run. That encourages then your foot to come straight downwards underneath your hips, and if it lands directly underneath your hips because you're going forwards, that pushes power out backwards, and then it's a literal cycle in which that generates more momentum, more speed, constantly throwing you forwards. If, however, your hips are coming backwards, you'll notice a bit of a forward lean. You're disengaging all of this trunk section here, which is your core muscles, hate that word, but your abdominal strength, and that basically stops you being able to deliver as much power to your lower body. The easy way for you to test this out right now is if you stand up and you tense your abs, your stomach muscles, tense them. You can feel them switch on. Doesn't matter if you've got a six pack or not, you can feel it happen. Now, I want you to bend forwards and try and tense your muscles. It's really, really difficult to bend forward and tense your abdominal muscles. Do it now, because I know 99% of you haven't just done that, because you're cheating, because I can't see you. That's why I do it on Zoom, so I make sure everyone can basically put their video on. I could see their form. Right, you should have noticed that being here, you can tense your ab muscles. Being here, you can't tense your ab muscles. And this is really important, that we basically replicate this position as we run, because your abs are the things which are engaging 4 limbs whilst you run. Loads of exercises when you're in the gym are not including 4 limbs all moving simultaneously. So it's really, really difficult to do effective and efficient running at your maximum potential if you are not putting your body in the right position, being nice and vertical. A good demonstration of someone to watch running is Bekele. Endurance runner Bekele, B-E-K-E-L-E. He's nice and tall in his posture and really fluid legs. It's like watching, I don't know what you call them, train wheels. You know, you've got the steel discs and you've got the thing which moves like that. His legs move in that fashion. Really nice high knee lift, kicks behind him, trunk nice and tall. Right, that's our first question done. If you have a question that you would like me to answer here live, then pop it in the comments. No one has said hello other than Kate, so please say hello. There's 7 of you still watching right now, so please click hello. I will say hello back to you right where you were watching. Are you watching outdoors, or are you watching in the kitchen doing some baking, some lockdown baking? Please ensure you have a coffee or a cup of tea is acceptable as well. So our next question, the next one I'm going to come on to here. Now I've had this question personally a few times as well. And this one is, I've just done Couch to 5K. Hopefully all this will pop up on your screen in a second. I've just done Couch to 5K. Am I meant to run faster or run further now? Sorry, I can't read my own writing. I've just done a Couch to 5K. Am I meant to run faster or further now, or am I meant to do both? Really, really good question. People ask me about Couch to 5Ks for my opinion on it. I think it's really good. I think it's an excellent way to start. I'm a big fan of Michael Johnson. There's the baton. Really like Michael Johnson. I think he's very, very motivational. And I think it's a very simple and accessible way to get involved in running and health and fitness. So definitely do it if you aren't confident to get started. When you finish Couch to 5K, come to me, because it's a great point for you basically to then, if you want to take your running to the next level, start improving, running faster and further, I can guarantee it basically. This is quite a difficult question in the fact that it basically depends on what your goal is. Most people who have finished the 5K have had a goal of just being able to run. But now, it's actually an issue of, I actually intend to do anything when I was running. So what do I want to do? What's available for me? Most people take the jump and say, I want to do a 10K race. So that's endurance. That's about increasing your volume of running training effectively. Some people say, I want to carry on doing 5Ks and I want to do parkrun and I want to get faster over the parkrun. My tip to you would be to focus on just one thing initially. If you focus on increasing speed and endurance or distance covered, your chance of injury goes sky high. Basically, when you increase the distance covered, so your duration of your runs, it's about 2.5%, or throw in an extra mile per week. Yeah, tops really, 1 extra mile across the week. There is another rule of thumb, which is to increase 1 mile every 3 weeks, and by that you get really comfortable for 3 weeks running that distance, and then you take another step up. That's particularly useful for those of you who are completely new to running, or perhaps have found it a bit more challenging getting into running and getting comfortable with it. But rule of thumb is either increase speed or increase your distance. Now's where it gets interesting. If you are doing any form of running, it is not just about running for a longer period of time. And it's not just about trying to run that same distance faster. It's about breaking your runs up into sections, components, sets. So at the moment, we're doing a lot of 5 and 10K work with the end goal of being able to run it faster. Are we running steady state, so that means the same pace for 5 or 10K? Not at all. We might be doing 4K worth of work, but at intervals. So intervals of fast and slow recovery. Some of those distances, like today's run this morning before I was coaching, I was doing a session of 200 meters fast, 200 meters slow, with a set pace in the middle of those two, and then repeating that process. And that's covering a total of 8.4K or something like that. We do this kind of interval training all the way up to marathon prep. So one of our runners, I talk about him all the time, I hope he doesn't mind, but Danny does loads of interval work, and Danny has been working towards marathon prep. It's obviously had a little bit of issue with lockdown, but it doesn't matter the distance you cover. You should never just rely on staying at one steady speed for a longer period of time. You will not improve if you follow that kind of mentality. You need to be breaking up your runs, sticking in some intervals there. Intervals can be anything from 100 meters all the way up to 1 mile, and then working a fast speed as your work rate, and then working a recovery. That's a really slow speed for your recovery bit. An easy way of doing that is doing, say, you run 400 meters hard, 400 meters slow, so it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Or maybe you're going to give yourself twice the amount of recovery. There's loads and loads of ways of doing it. Maybe if there was interest, I would write a little program on how to do that. Right, hopefully that's been beneficial for you out there if you're doing couch to 5K. Maybe you've just finished, or maybe you're not sure what to do with your training at this point in time. Hit like, love, haha, wow, please. It really does help us on Facebook. They show it to more people. We've got a few questions in here, coming in here. Alistair and Dave, how are we doing, guys? I hope you're keeping well. Our old neighbours. Ian, good morning, Ian. How are you? Right, let's go through these. I find running downhill quite uncomfortable. Any tips for adjusting stride and posture? Yeah, great question. I imagine that's... Alistair said, that's a good one. I did my back in running down a hill once, so advice on that would be helpful. Cool. So basically, downhill running is about confidence, and has the feed frozen? Oh no, you're just a little bit more delayed than I am. Downhill running is about confidence because our initial reaction is to heel plant. So like that, that's your heel there. Heel plants strike out in front of you, and all that does is send the impact right up through your ankle, knee, hip obviously, where it's interacting with your back. Now, the reason I say it's about confidence? It's because you actually want to free yourself as you go down the hill, the slope. Just reminded me of that Chemical Brothers song, "Free Yourself." New album, very good album. Train to. You want to mid-foot land, and you want to take the brakes off basically, and allow yourself to recoup energy by rolling down the hill, not physically rolling, but actually, rather than putting your heel first and trying to brake down the hill, you put your midfoot landing and go down the hill. You need to practice this. I love downhill running. We did a Birmingham 10K once. No, it wasn't Birmingham 10K. It was the Stratford 10K, I think it was. And there was the most horrendous hill in there. And obviously, whenever you go up, you must come down, and there's a massive, massive hill on the other end. And literally, I just took the brakes off and maybe went past a couple of hundred people. It was something I couldn't really control that much because I'm just hurtling down a hill. This is a difficult thing to master. You have to have confidence in your stride. So maybe do it on a few more shallow hills. Maybe do it on kind of like shorter duration hills, if that makes sense. Get used to midfoot landing. Pull that knee up. You've got to make sure you're pulling that knee up as you strike downwards. And allow your foot to come down underneath your hips. Kate, Alistair, does that make sense? Does that help? It's because you put your heel out in front of you, it causes the pain to occur because you've effectively got a straight leg landing into the floor, and that is not good. Okay, I hope it's okay now. I feel like I really tense up. Yeah, it is that you will be tensing up. You'll be bracing, ready for that impact, because you know, deep down, you know having a straight leg into something hard is not going to be good. It's not going to be pleasant. Ian says, when you get your start time for a 10K or half marathon, do you recommend doing your long run at that time? Ian, correct me if I'm wrong. I think what Ian's saying here is that when you enter a race, they say, okay, the orange wave will be going at 8:45, for example, and you therefore need to get ready to start at 8:45. That's quite an early start, actually, isn't it? But I think that's what you're saying. In theory, yes, you need to train at times similar to the time you expect to race. At elite level, 100%. If we do stuff for example, Tokyo Olympics, time of some events, Rio Olympics was a major issue with heat, time of some events meant it might be incredibly early or incredibly late. Doha, for example, the marathon had to be run at midnight here. Or was it midnight there? It was ridiculous o'clock because it was still 40 degrees centigrade. Therefore, athletes had to basically prep to run and train at those times. So you are correct in that, Ian. It has less of an effect when you're kind of like within a normal day. So if you're used to exercising between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. or 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. it has less of an effect during that period of time. I definitely recommend you practicing at it, but it has less of an effect than when you change time zone, or you go to the extremes of now you're going to be training at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. as opposed to between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., 5 p.m., whatever. But why not throw in a few as you get nearer and nearer to the race? The most important thing during training is running at a time which suits you to get the most out of your training. Then, in the final 3 weeks perhaps, you start training at the time you'll be competing at. So hopefully that makes sense. Little benefit for us normal folk, major benefits for elite level. If you're in different time zones, then 100% do it. If it's outside your normal waking or training hours, 100% do it. And then if you are doing it, try to maximize your training at a time that suits you normally, and then in the 3-4 weeks running up to the event, then switch to it. Ian, does that make sense? I know I talked about a lot of things there. Alistair, it was many years ago, but he's still wary. Alistair, hopefully those tips helped. I'll happily go into it more. Kate says, great question. I'm quite set on times of day that I run in training, and then race day is suddenly completely different. I've never thought of trying that call. I'll definitely hold back, so try to relax next. Yeah, you've just got to relax as you go down the hill. Ah, cool, Ian. Nice. I normally run early morning before eating, but when race time is mid-late morning. I'm never sure whether to eat before or not. Good question, Ian. I'll think of this next time. Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, endurance performance, anything outside of like weightlifting, and basically you should be eating before you perform. Your body relies on carbohydrates to forget all the mumbo jumbo about fat adaptation. There isn't enough clinical research to support that. There's plenty against it, unless you're from Never Eat East Africa, and a particular one Kenyan tribe. The rest of us, we're not good enough at fat adaptation. So you should be eating before you run some kind of carbohydrate source, not heavy on fats. But it's very individual in terms of how long prior to running. So it might be 30 minutes for some people. That seems very short to me. For others, it might be an hour and a half, any nearer towards race time, and they're going to have gastrointestinal discomfort, which is just a very nice way of saying sickness and diarrhea, or stomach cramps. Do not try this on race day. Practice this for 6 weeks or so at least. So practice before your training runs. It will be very nice if you're used to being fasted before exercise, before your endurance exercise, and then suddenly you consume carbohydrate. You'll realize just how much faster your performance is by doing that. Right, I've got one more question. We've got 7 minutes. If you have any other questions, please drop it in the comments and I will answer them live. The last question, here we go. So I've heard of BCAAs. I've heard BCAAs are important. When should I take them? Really interesting. BCAAs, branched chain amino acids. These are 3 amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So leucine, isoleucine, and valine. These branched chain amino acids are considered the most important amino acids that you could possibly have in the body, and when the major protein research was kind of not being exhausted, but had pretty much been covered, people started looking at individual amino acids and their impacts on the body, and there was a kind of a big bit of a jump that took place of, well, if these are the most important amino acids, maybe we should be supplementing those amino acids. And then obviously some early research did show their interactions, and then the natural thing happened where basically a load of supplement manufacturers started making BCAAs and saying, yep, you need these, they're the most important amino acids. So then it took a few years, up until 2014 pretty much, where everyone was like, right, branched chain amino acids, take these whilst you're training because they're really important for your body. 2014 comes along and certain researchers start poking questions into this. Kevin Tipton, he is the king of protein research. Kevin Tipton basically oversaw a massive paper, and following this paper, ever since, all of the clinical research shows that branched chain amino acid supplementation, so BCAAs supplemented on their own, do nothing for you. Wow, that's a lie. They do like this much more than doing a placebo. So they interestingly found that if you take these branched chain amino acids on their own, they're pretty much useless. They need all their other amino acid friends. You know, who wants to go to a party on their own? They want to go with a bunch of other people. And amino acids were like that. They had massive FOMO. They wanted to be with their other amino acids to be effective. That basically meant that there was no benefit to taking branched chain amino acids. Well, there was this tiny, tiny, tiny benefit of taking amino acids on their own over a placebo, rather comparing it with a protein shake, so a whey protein shake on its own, was hugely beneficial over the placebo and substantially better than just BCAAs on their own. People write on tubs of branched chain amino acids energy. It is not the kind of energy that you think of like you get from caffeine or from glucose, from carbohydrates. It's nothing like that whatsoever. It's just about aiding the recovery process. There is one group of people who may have benefits from BCAAs. They're the only group of people I ever recommend taking BCAAs to, and they are vegans. Vegan protein sources are vastly inferior, basically due to bioavailability, the widespread amino acid profile, and the lack of leucine. Leucine is one of those amino acids inside branched chain amino acids, and leucine is the thing that causes muscle protein synthesis. You can basically go all the way through university and not hear any of these words. So if what I'm saying doesn't make sense, when I say university, I mean do a nutrition degree or a sports science degree. So leucine threshold basically tells your muscles, right, we've got enough now to start repairing muscle tissue. And basically vegan sources of protein don't have those amino acids, and when they do have those amino acids, they don't have enough of it to trigger this threshold barrier, and therefore won't basically repair muscle tissue sufficiently. So the vegan athletes I've worked with, or clients I've worked with, I've always recommended they take this as a kind of bit of insurance. But other than that, no one needs BCAA supplements on their own. They're really expensive, they're unnecessary. Take a whey protein shake instead. Hit like love, haha, wow, if that was new to you. Right, those are my questions that I was submitted for this week. Let's see what else we have here. Just one more thing here. Alistair says, when I run 10k, I don't normally feel out of breath at the end. Am I not pushing myself enough and just sitting comfortably, or is this a good thing? I'm going to be really, really annoying, Alistair. It depends on what that 10k was. If that's your one easy run of the week, so long and easy, meaning you completely pull back on your paces and you're just doing it for a bit of mileage, so improving bone density, strength in your legs, so it's your Sunday run at 10k, then that's not a problem at all. If this is during a race or if this is for training, then yes, you should be pushing harder. 10k should never be easy. And remember, maybe you weren't here at the start actually, Alistair. Don't run 10ks as a whole 10k at the same pace. Break it up into a session. It might be 8.5k, but of intervals of 1k hard, 500 meters easy, etc., etc. Think of the 10k, because you did the 10k plan. Do break up your runs to improve the top speed that you run at. That is the best way to improve your training, Alistair. So you might do like a 2k warm-up, 4 400s hard with 400 recovery, 1k, 4 200s hards with 200 recoveries, 1k cool down. It's still covering this a long distance. I didn't do the maths in my head there. Maybe that is 10k. If someone is adding that up right now and that comes to 2k, I'm very chuffed. I'm very proud of myself. But basically, you're covering the same mileage, but because you're putting in the higher speed work in there, you'll improve your VO2 max, so your ability to process oxygen, which is what you need to run faster. You'll improve your running technique, because we run faster, we run more efficiently and effectively, and you're still getting in a fair bit of mileage into your week. If you do just steady runs, you will find your progress is so much harder. If it's easy runs, these should be super easy, and if that's why you're doing your 10Ks and not feeling out of breath, then you are running it spot on. So it just does depend on which type that is. Do let me know and I'll go into more details, Alistair. At this point in time, guys, if you think someone will benefit from this, please tag them in the comments or share. Click share now and then write a little post saying why this was useful. Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Good morning to you. Do people have any tips and tricks they use to push themselves through runs when they just want to stop? I will answer this one for you, Rach, but everyone else on here, we've had between 5 and 8 people. So by all means, jump in, guys. I do visualization a lot. And I mean, even mid-run, I visualize why I'm doing this, whether that's for particular physical goals, appearance, or whether that's for a time I want to envisage. My most common visualization is I picture Mo Farah or Jessica Ennis-Hill, Jess Ennis at the time, at the 2012 Olympics, Mo running the 5K and Jess running the 800 meters at the end of the heptathlon, and basically that pushes me a lot. I may be a little weird in saying that, but it makes me finish it. I think other people will have similar experiences though, so I'll give everyone a little bit of time. If you have any questions, guys, it has gone 12, but I will stick around for a few more minutes if there are any other questions on here. And remember, new episode, new podcast episode, new YouTube episode, which is available. So if you go to YouTube and just type in FNTC TV, or click my pinned link here over on comments. Is it over here or is it down here? That will take you to this episode. It's an interview with Phil Taylor, and it's The Athlete's Mindset. We're going to do another episode in the near future. So this is the first episode of season 2. It's also available on Spotify or your podcast provider. Just type in Performance Physique Podcast and you will see it comes up there. Season 2, episode 1. It's a really good 55 minutes. Kate says, if it's a longer run or intervals, I break it down and do ridiculous maths in my head. I'm halfway, so I have to just do that one more time, or after this rep, there's just 2 more. So I think the faster I go, the sooner it's over. Also, if I have to stop, it's a long walk home. Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good point, Kate. I can't believe I forgot that. I used to do loads of like longer runs, and I used to do loads of maths in my head. Very odd. I used to work out like heart rate percentages and weird stuff like that. Basically just kept it going in my head, and that got me through loads of distances. Alistair says, I think I'm just running too comfortably. I'll take your advice. Yeah, break up those runs then, Alistair. Pop me any questions. Or even next week, for next week's live, write up a session that you think kind of matches those intervals that I've just said, and ask it live, and I'll give you like a Viva. Anyone do a Viva before? I used to like Vivas, but yeah, I'll answer it. Kate says, I also listen to podcasts rather than music, and so I try and focus on the chat and feel like I'm running with someone else. Very interesting. I couldn't possibly do that. It's about finding your own one there, guys. Oh, look at this glorious sun that is coming out. So, as I was saying, guys, please go and check out that YouTube video, subscribe to the channel, share this around. Season 2 is going to be cool. Season 2 of FNTC TV, that's Friday Night Track Club TV, which is where we do the podcast, Performance Physique podcast, is going to be a lot more interviews and discussion as opposed to just my thoughts. This one's quite fun as well because Phil and I trained for the decathlon. We went through this journey together, and our respective partners as well probably went through that journey as well. And we discuss lots of kind of things mentality-wise, psychological, mindset of how people win, including Michael Jordan. And there's a couple of funny anecdotes in there. We had to delete a couple of those anecdotes as well. Ah, cool. Ace Rachel. Try those out. Well done. Go for it. Guys, I'm going to leave you with a lovely sunny Sunday afternoon by the looks of it. I will see you all next Sunday for our Q&A. Get your questions ready. You can send them to me via DM, or you can go info@performancephysique.co.uk. Bring a coffee, and I will see you all soon. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.